Some transfer rumours just don't go away. They stick around. You don't believe them. The club deny it and they stick around. And that's very much the case here with Tammy Abraham, because the Italian media for some weeks now has been saying West Ham want Tammy Abraham. The English side of things have dismissed it. But in the last 24 hours or so, the Italian media really ramped up these Tammy Abraham rumours, and they're now suggesting that he's on the brink of joining West Ham on loan. Now, we'll explain how the deal will work in just a second. But Frankie, what's your take on all this noise around West Ham getting Abraham?
It's hard to say a take because you don't know what's going on. But one thing I do know is I would quite like to see him in a West Ham shirt. I just
Would
think,
you?
yeah, I would. I was obviously at Palace, and first half, 15 minutes looking pretty good. I thought we had a really good first opening 15 minutes. Slightly iffy after that up until half time. But those first 15 minutes, I felt like we created plenty, but we didn't have the man who's going to put the ball in the back of the net, and I think Tammy would be that man. So yeah, I'd quite like to see him, especially on loan. I think that would be a very shrewd bit of business.
So, in terms of believing the transfer rumour, you sort of on the fence with it. You're just unsure, waiting to see.
Well, like you say, there's no smoke without fire. Sometimes, especially when they're hanging around this long, you'd think, and I would say that it points to what I feel is a bit of an issue. I don't think Fulkrug is the total answer to our attacking issues. I think, if and to be honest, we've seen Antonio for a couple of games now. We've both kind of had the opinion in that first game that give him a chance to prove
Yeah.
himself and give him his opportunity. Well, he's had his opportunity now, and he hasn't really done much across those two games. So for me, his limitations are still there. I know people are still fond of him. Yes, okay, he scored more goals than any other West Ham striker in the Premier League and all this sort of stuff. But I think we're looking at moving forward as a team now. We've progressed in certain areas. That's the area that we need to progress again. I think there is a real problem there when Antonio starts. I think for all of the creativity that's around him and for all of the chances we created in that first 15 minutes, which personally I felt like we should have gone 1-0 up. We didn't, and then they started to get on top of the game. So I want to see us to be more ruthless. I want to see us to have that out and out goal scorer. Now, I said to you, I didn't think Fulkrug would get 10 Premier League goals. I'm still sticking by that, but I think Tammy Abraham would. So on that basis, I'd like to see him in there. But I would like to see Fulkrug still around him. I think they both offer something a little bit different. And for all of me saying that I don't think Fulkrug would get 10 Premier League goals, the way he put himself about when he came on against Palace, he's going to be a very useful player. So I'm very happy Fulkrug's here. I'm not saying that I want Tammy to come in and we never see Fulkrug again and whatever, or that I think that's the reason why we need him. I think Fulkrug can do a brilliant job for West Ham. But if we want that 10 plus goal a season striker, Tammy's your man.
Yeah, I mean, I actually believe this rumor, Frankie. I haven't believed up until last night, this morning. I'm starting to come around to believe it, and there's a few reasons why. And apologies if it's a bit patronising, but I will talk you through my thought process. So, first of all, West Ham side of things are denying this, right, and they're still continuing to deny it. So, Sean and X are saying the club are saying we ain't after Tammy Abraham; it's too expensive. The club also said Edson Alvarez will be back after the international break, right? So there's proof there that the club have been saying false things recently to Sean and X in regards to Edson Alvarez. Fabrizio Romano said he's in the squad for Crystal Palace. Sean and X said, no, he's not. He's back after international break. He's in the squad against Crystal Palace. 1-0 to the in the nose, if you like. So that sort of discredits the sources coming out of West Ham, in my opinion. And it's not to say that I think Sean or X are making up. I do not. I believe they're getting told this by West Ham. I believe Sullivan is telling Sean and X, no, we're not going after him. He's too expensive. I believe they're getting told that. They're passed on. Essentially, that's what in the know is. It's a messenger, isn't it? It's somebody that contacts source and then tells the Joe public, if you like. I think that's all they're doing here. I just think the club are lying on this one. Second of all, I think it's fair that we all expect Danny Ings to leave West Ham one way or another before the deadline closes on Friday, okay? I just don't see us going into the season with Fulkrug and Antonio, and that's it, as striker options. I think there would be somebody else coming in. And you want to get rid of a player if for certain reasons, but in terms of the striker, you want to get rid of your third striker if either A, you're creating a pathway for somebody, well, there isn't one, he's currently on loan at Huddersfield, or B, you can upgrade that player. So whoever's going to come in is going to be better or more useful than Danny Ings. So I think we're looking at a decent level of striker that we're trying to get in here. Then the third reason is the deal itself, because Roma apparently want 20 odd million for him. I thought, well, we can't pay that considering A, the money we've spent, but B, he had a serious ACL injury that made him miss all of last year. He came back for a hand. He played a few games at the start of the season, played a couple of games at the end of the season, but he missed everything in between. So there's got to be reservations from West Ham's side of things over his fitness and his rehabilitation, and they should have those reservations. However, the terms of the deal that are being reported by the Italian media is that we'd get him on loan with an option to buy. However, the option to buy, so we've got a choice. We can buy him for a set fee, or we don't have to buy him. But that option to buy turns into an obligation to buy if Tammy Abraham plays a certain amount of games this season for West Ham. I don't know what that figure is. Let's just say it's 15 starts. Therefore, he's kept himself pretty fit for the season. We then have to buy him for 22 million euros, so just under 20 million quid it would cost us next summer to sign Tammy Abraham. So because of that deal, I feel like it just makes sense, Frankie. Do you know what I mean? The price tag, getting him on loan, that he has to play a certain amount of games before we have to buy him. It's all starting to add up a little bit for me. So I'm inclined to believe this rumour now.
Yeah, well, like I say, I hope so. I think, like you say, on those terms, it's a no-brainer. It's sensible business from West Ham. And, if we're going to go and do something like that, if you said to me, what type of deals are we going to do from now until the end of the season, that would have been the type of deal that I would have expected. And we said, didn't we, there's different types of pearl diving, there's different types of ways of seeing that. Well, a deal like that is very, very shrewd. That takes somebody who's thinking a little bit, who isn't just going all guns blazing and thinking, oh, we're panic buying a striker like we've done at the end of other transfer windows. This actually feels a little bit of, do you know what, we've probably been eyeing this up for a little while. That's where the rumours have come from. If we'd have done the other business and Duran had come in, then we would probably be looking at it. It wouldn't be something that we needed to do. But the way that we are in the position we're in, this is probably one of those B options, but a B option that actually makes a lot of sense and could work out really well for West Ham. So fingers crossed. I hope it is. There is some substance to it.
If this does go through, we end up signing him for the rumoured price tag that Aston Villa were wanting for Duran. We're pretty much getting Fulkrug and Tammy Abraham for a similar total fee as well. Obviously, I've got concerns regarding his injury, but this loan deal sort of removes that concern to some extent. We can have a look at him. And even if he's not working out, you can do what we did with Simone Zaza, which was, well, he's played 14 games. We're just not going to play him for 15th one, and so we don't have to buy him. I don't know. I say 15 because that's just a guess. I feel like that's a fair amount of games for Roma and West Ham to have as the marker for it. But looking at his record, I mean, the season before last, he played 38 games. I'm going by league games only here. Played 38 games, 8 goals, 4 assists. The season before that, though, he scored 17 and 37. At Chelsea the season before that, where he got 6 and 22. In the Conference League, when Roma went on and won it, he scored 9 goals and 13 appearances in that competition. Now, I know some people dismiss it, but overall, his complete record as a centre-forward, 150 goals and 357 appearances. Now, that includes coming off the bench, but also 41 assists as well. So, homegrown too, 26 years old. As a profile, I think it makes sense, actually. He's a talented striker. I remember wanting him when he went to Italy in the first place. When he was leaving Chelsea, I wanted him at West Ham. So, but listen, I'm not going to lie. I haven't kept an eye on him in Italy. I couldn't tell you how he's got on other than the statistics. But I'm pretty sure he'd be a better option to have in the squad than Danny Ings. And essentially, that is what he is. He's a replacement for Danny Ings. So I've actually come around to this one, Frankie. I'm hoping it happens. I'm starting to believe it might actually happen as well. And
anything can happen. Oasis are back, mate. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I've even got my West Ham version the Hammers Chat t-shirt on regarding Oasis. Right then, moving on to Crystal Palace. You were there. You were impressed by the first 10, 15 minutes. we got the win, big win.
Yeah, a huge win. Did get a little bit nervous after that first 15 minutes. We looked good, and then they really took over. Obviously, as they hit the bar, we rode our luck a little bit towards the end of that first half, to be totally honest. We wanted to see changes quickly. And as I said again, we've got options. We need to see them. It is good that we've got options now because we're using them well. And yeah, that was the big changing point for me as soon as we made those tweaks. But, there are a couple of players that we've sort of been tipping as being the ones that are going to be at the end of the season. I think we'll look back and say we're very fortunate to have them. Max Kilman looks like he is a serious player. I just love the way he plays out from the back, the way he gets the ball moving. Yeah, really impressed with him, to be honest. So, yeah, a lot of good stuff come out of that. I've heard a few people saying, look, on another day and on another team, and we could get beat and whatever, but we didn't, and we done what we had to do, which was important. So yeah.
And moving on then, well, before we get onto the Bournemouth one, actually, there's a lot of talk about players leaving. We've discussed Danny Ings, and it's upset me, Frankie. Before we did the show, I was making a thumbnail for the video because I thought we would predominantly be discussing players leaving. It took me ages. I'm learning Photoshop, and I made the thumbnail, looked a bit bland. I thought I'm going to spice it up, and it took me ages to do this, but look at it. I added some flames to my text.
Fire.
And I can't use it as a thumbnail because Tammy Abraham's a clickbait, so that's what we're going to have to go with. However, I just wanted to show people I added some flames to my previous thumbnail, and I was quite proud of my artwork, actually. I think Charlie will be proud of me. He'll be rooting for me. In terms of players leaving, then, so the updates are: Aguerd rejected a move to the Bundesliga. He only wants to go to France or Saudi. Zuma's having another medical, this time in Saudi as well. Kone, there's not really much talk about, but he's been linked to some bottom Premier League teams, top Championship clubs. Danny Ings been linked to Burnley and Leeds United today as well. Leeds are obviously busy in the transfer market. Getting Solomon on loan, I think that's a really good signing, actually. I thought he was good enough for the Premier League, but good signing for Leeds. Who are you expecting to leave before that deadline at 11 p.m?
I don't know if it's necessarily an expectation or the one that I really want to see go. And Ings, unfortunately, is that man. For all of his will and his trying, and then let's be honest, he's not had it good at West Ham, and we haven't played him in the best way that we could have done. But he's always tried. We said that towards the back end of last season when he came on and he was playing in that sort of, I don't know, almost number 10 role. He still gave it everything he had. So I'm not sitting here knocking the man for, misbehaving or not giving it his all, or that's the reason he's not worked out. He's not worked out because sometimes things just don't fit, and he was one of those things that just didn't fit. So he's the one that I think needs to go, especially with the wages that he ended up on. I was listening to Sean's podcast last night, and he sort of said that maybe the way forward is a mutual termination of contract. Normally when that happens, players can command a bigger signing on fee for themselves, so that will get him some extra retirement funds in the bank for him. So maybe it makes perfect sense.
Get another hair transplant.
Maybe.
So, it's not quite worked, has it? No. I've been a bit disappointed by it, actually. When he came back, and it's still a little bit sparse on the front, isn't it? He has to backcomb it now to try and hide the poor hair transplant. So Ings might get a few of those ones. I think he'll end up at Burnley, or
I think he'd suit a club like that, and it would make sense. And yeah, I think, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's what fits everybody. At the end of the day, I only want what's best for West Ham, but in terms of what's right for him, I think that mutual termination of contract seems to make sense. So just get it done, and then it opens up just space for us to use that in a way that might be a bit more useful. We ain't going to get anything out of him, so
well, Scott Parker needs players because he's only been there a couple of months. He's already started falling out with half the squad at Burnley, which is a bit of a track record for that. Parker does of isolating players pretty quickly in his tenure. So I don't think they had a good start to the season, Burnley, but I think behind the scenes it's starting to fall apart a little bit. So maybe someone like Danny Ings, and we've heard how good he is around the club and how important he's been behind the scenes. Callum Marshall, when he went to Huddersfield, spoke very highly of Danny Ings, saying that he was the one in training, sort of looking after him a little bit. Marshall would have a shot, would go wide, and Ings would say to him, "Get out your memory, forget about it. Don't don't think about the shot you've missed. Get going, get your next one, keep your confidence high. And Marshall he only mentioned one person from West Ham, and it was Danny Ings. And I think that was quite telling, actually. And I like that. I like hearing that the senior players are looking after your youngsters, and I hope he goes and gets a good move somewhere. Because, like you say, he hasn't done anything wrong at West Ham in terms of his attitude. I think the one that's causing debate is James Ward-Prowse.
Yeah, I think he'll go. I do think there's a good chance he'll go though. I think something could happen quite late with him. Um, I'm just again not sure how much game time he'll get with us. Um, I don't know. I think Rodriguez needs to get up to the pace of the game quickly though. That's my only reservation to letting Ward-Prowse go, is that it seems like it's an obvious replacement if Rodriguez can't. There were people saying that he was better against Palace. I'm still not sure. I didn't notice him.
I thought he was much better against Palace than Villa.
I didn't notice him in the first half at all. Didn't even really see. I just think the game passes him by. He's one of those players at the moment where the game just goes by him. And we know that his technical ability is solid. We saw that in the friendlies when he weren't under pressure. But you just see everyone bombing around him, and you see people pressing and being quick and being physical, and then you see him sort of almost just pondering, and you can't do that in the Premier League. You've got to be up with the pace of the game, so he needs to get up fast. But if he can adapt and get a little bit more involved in the play, then I think Ward-Prowse is surplus to requirements, unfortunately, and it would make sense for him to go as well.
I think at the minute we look quite stacked in midfield. However, I think one player injured, and suddenly it's like we're back to the right amount of numbers, really. And with this,
do you feel Soler's still there? If Ward-Prowse goes, does that trigger him coming in?
I think so. I think that's what it's hinging on, really. I think Soler's all done bar the final signature, and it's just a case of we need to shift one or two before we can get him in. And I mean, the thing with Soler and Abraham joining is that it's potentially like 40 million of next summer's budget spent already, because both of them will be loans with obligations, which is quite, and Todibo as well. So it's 70 million we've already spent out of next summer's budget. So I think next summer might be quite a quiet one, unless there's any major outgoings, which we expect with Mohamed Kudus probably. The thing with Ward-Prowse though is that it's this Paqueta investigation. We don't have a date for it, but they could turn around and set it for, the 5th of January or something, and bang, he's found guilty, he's suspended. It's like, hang on a minute, we're now a man down literally overnight. So I still think he'll be here, but I think there'll be plenty of clubs after him because he's still a really good Premier League midfielder, and I think he'd be a fantastic signing for the right club, whether it's back to Southampton. He's been linked to Nottingham Forest. I think that move makes sense for him as well. I think there's some good players at Forest, but I think the middle of the park is somewhere he could get in. They're still playing Ryan Yates frequently. Ward-Prowse is much better than him as a footballer. So, I still think Ward-Prowse will be here just because it's not like Ings. He's a freebie, big wages, but he's free. Whereas Ward-Prowse, I think West Ham would be looking for about 20 million for him, I'd imagine. It's quite a hefty sum, but we'll wait and see. I want to go back to Friday night, Frankie. You caught a bit of the under-21s in their impressive victory.
Yeah, much better. They picked up a little bit, which was good. They were struggling, to be perfectly honest, when they played Reading, and obviously I saw them in pre-season. They'd sort of had a really slow start, but picked up. A little position change for our man as well, who plays left back normally, and we moved him into central midfield, which was an interesting move, to be honest. I wasn't sure that was going to work out, but he got a goal very, very early on, which was great. And he also got a second towards the end of the match as well. And his run to get his first goal was great. He timed it perfectly. Sawyer massively involved again, which I've been very impressed with Sawyer. I just think his physicality looks ready for, that next step, if you like. I was a bit disappointed, actually, that Sawyer didn't go to Gillingham. I wanted to see him in competitive football. I think he needs competitive football now. I'm not sure how useful under-21s football is for him now. I want to see him sort of get that competitive every week, matching up against some, big physical, players, and hopefully develop him on, because I do tip him as someone who could very well potentially be a future, youngster who ends up breaking into the first team.
Last question then. Bournemouth tomorrow night in the Cup. How are you feeling?
Yeah, looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. Actually, my boys' football team are all going to go together. So it's their first match where they're going, and a lot of them haven't been to matches before. As you know, my boy has been going for a while when he was at Palace, but a lot of his teammates haven't been going. So they're all going to go and all sit next to each other in the stands. So that'll keep my hands full for the match. But no, I'm really looking forward to just watching some of those different players who we haven't been able to get much of a look at yet. I'm really hoping Somerville starts. That's the one I really want to see. And Todibo, I'm really looking forward to seeing him as well. So,
are we going to win?
Yeah, I think we will. Yeah, I think we will. I'm really confident, even though I think we're going to have a lot of changes. Or I'm expecting a fair few changes. I think in your review, didn't you say maybe they line up very similar, or are you expecting changes as well?
Yeah, I think Bournemouth will go relatively strong. They might have a few, but I think when the players they bring in will be first team senior players that have just been on the bench or something. I don't think they'll play youngsters.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see Somerville start. I'd like to see Todibo. I'd like to see Wan-Bissaka. So yeah, it'll be interesting to get a look at a few of the newbies, and that's why I'm excited for it. Normally, this sort of stage of the cup isn't that. I'm not that motivated for it, but I'm actually going with a lot of keen interest. Want to see what they're all about, and I think they're all more than good enough to step up. And I know I sort of listened to your review with Gonzo, and yeah, okay, you say it's one of the toughest draws, which it was.
Yeah.
But they've still only got 2 points in the Premier League. They've only drawn their first two games. They're not off the mark with a win yet. I think the Premier League is far more important to them. Not necessarily saying that they're a relegation team, but they certainly wouldn't want to feel any pressure. They won't want to be looking over their shoulders at any point, hovering above that. So I think the Premier League is just going to be their absolute main priority. And because of that, I think we're going to go out and do a proper number on them, mate.
And are we going to win the cup?
Mate, this is what I want this year. This is what I want. I want to be going to Wembley. This is it. Like, this is massive for us. I can forgive, and I know people see it a little bit differently, and a lot of people want European football back. Well, if we win the cup, we get European football. I want another Wembley trip. That's massive to me. I'm a bit of a old romantic when it comes to the cups, even the League Cup for me. To see West Ham go to Wembley and lift the League Cup would just be incredible. Yeah. And yeah, I just really want to see us go all guns blazing for it. I really do.
Well, 28-1 on Paddy Power. I say my money, my free bets are on. I haven't put my own cash, but I've used the free bets from Paddy Power on the 28-1. I'm hoping we can do it. I think this is a tough game, but when the lineup comes out, I think we'll get a really good idea of Lopetegui wants to win this cup as well. And I expect the answer will be yes. I think we'll see the new signings rotated in. Like you said, Wan-Bissaka, Todibo, Somerville and Fulkrug. I think they'll come in. We might see Alvarez start. I don't think we'll see too many other changes. The only one we might see, which I don't think people will want to see, is Aaron Creswell. But I think that's because I think Lopetegui is just a big fan of Aaron Creswell. You know, you've seen him in the last few minutes of Palace game. He trusts him. Says, right, I need to hold on to this lead. You're going on. Just help see this lead out. I think Lopetegui is just a fan of him. But we'll wait and see till tomorrow night. But Frankie, thank you very much. And you guys, this isn't the end of me and Frankie this week. We're back later on. We'll be doing a Fantasy League series, and we've been enjoying it. And we're back later on this week with our latest edition ahead of the game week number 3. We'll see how Frankie got on and how I got on. But the big question for Frank, don't answer. The big question for Frankie is, did you triple captain Haaland before you racked up a hat trick at the weekend? And also, I've got a bargain. I've already made my transfer for this weekend because I think this guy is cheap, and I think he's a way to haul some points. He's not got any points yet this season, but I think he's going to start this weekend. So you can tune in on Friday for myself and Frankie discussing Fantasy League. And we'll also be launching, during International Break, we'll be also launching a new mini league on Fantasy League with a prize up for grabs. More details on Friday. But thank you very much. If you guys at home have enjoyed it, please do drop a like on the video by clicking thumbs up, subscribe to Hammers Chat, and we'll see you on Friday.